Hi, Aaron. I wanted to start with a staggering metric you shared before we came on. You said that 75% of your entire workforce accessed Gemini Enterprise within 48 hours of the launch. That's not a tech rollout. That's a massive cultural and organisational shift. Aaron, how did KPMG prepare for and manage that kind of rapid enterprise transformation?
Yeah, it's actually been quite remarkable. We started with that early communication out to the firm using videos from the firm leadership to indicate it was coming. It wasn't very difficult to get people excited about Google because it was a brand they know, they use at home. They had been using some of these products in their day-to-day lives. So being able to use them inside of the firm in a safe and secure way, I think was really something that got people excited. We started with being able to release it to about 10% of the population, who what we call kind of our digital navigators. And that really sparked that, I'll call that information that was spreading across the rest of the firm. This product was coming, it was living up to the hype that we had built up. And ultimately, when we released it to the broad population, about a month later, it was just very sticky. Everyone was excited, they started using it, they started to see real quickly how well Gemini Enterprise worked for them. It was able to blend both the Google search with being able to use some of the agents that Google was producing, as well as being able to create agents. So all of that made it very easy to sell this and see the numbers we saw about adoption, which quite frankly have carried over for 2 months now. We've seen very heavy stickiness with this product. So we see that this is going to continue to be our trend as we continue to use Gemini Enterprise.
Just wow, Aaron. So when we talk about a company-wide rollout and an entire organisation accessing the tool, the immediate concern in any regulated industry, especially here in EMEA, is security and compliance. How did you reconcile that need for rapid innovation on the one hand and control and trust on the other?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we first started with a deep architecture review of the product to understand how it was structured, how our data would flow inside and out of the solution. Then we took that and we brought together what we call our Tiger team. And our Tiger team consisted of representatives across security, risk, our OGC, and privacy. And on a weekly basis, we reviewed with them the product, we reviewed with them the concerns or issues they raised. We worked very closely with Google to address those issues. We also saw a lot of opportunities to help Google with the product. So those were things we did to really try to drive the ability for people to be comfortable with the product. The other thing we did was we brought in our content SMEs. So our SMEs looked at the content before we released it broadly so they could make sure that A, the data was appearing as intended in Google, but also being able to validate the access control list. So were the right people seeing the right data before we released it broadly to our 40,000 users. Those were the things we did to proactively look at how we could bring this in. The other thing we really focused on is ensuring it met all of our use cases so we could meet the highest level of our data classification. This way, people were comfortable with whatever data they brought was approved for use, and therefore we contribute that a lot to the number of users we have today and how widely people are using it.
Thank you. And user-driven innovation sounds key to democratizing AI. Can you give us an example of how your employees, not just your IT teams, are turning their expertise into something scalable?
Yeah, I'll start with Notebook LM. We have a lot of our folks inside of the business units being able to use Notebook LM to create content they're sharing out with their groups and with their teams. This is really an innovative way to take information and disseminate it out using multimodal features like the audio, like being able to use mind map, et cetera. So that's one key innovation for us. The other key innovation for us has been using the agent gallery and the agent designer to be able to work through those different agent capabilities that they're sharing out with their friends.
Thank you, Aaron. That's the perfect example of turning tacit knowledge into an instantly accessible asset. For clarity for our audience, Notebook LM is part of the Gemini Enterprise offering. I use it every day to do client research and it has genuinely saved me hours. It also allows me to choose my sources and ground it in my truth. So, Aaron, beyond personal knowledge, how are your teams using Gemini Enterprise for day-to-day automation and optimization? Where is the real-time saving happening?
Yeah, the real-time savings is in a couple of places. One is finding insights. So being able to bring the insights that's inside the enterprise space to be able to find the content faster, being able to take those agents to generate information about creating emails, generating information about being able to present proposals. Those are just different things we're seeing today that they're using out inside of the business to be able to drive efficiencies and really increase productivity.
Aaron, that is such a compelling picture of transformation, from individual productivity right up to the enterprise scale, client-facing services. Thank you so much for walking us through how KPMG is leveraging Gemini Enterprise to automate and orchestrate work across the firm and beyond.
Thank you.